To say the first Sunday of the NFL season has been one to remember. Welcome into Game Day Recap. I'm Haley Sutton. I've got a great cast of characters to take you through the biggest storylines each and every Sunday. You'll meet them soon. But first, let's get you caught up on what we have seen so far on this first NFL Sunday. The Bucs taking a big step forward there in the NFC South. They pick up their first win over the Falcons. Were you surprised to see this? The Dolphins almost getting shut out by the Colts and Daniel Jones. We're going to talk about that shortly as well. Bo Nix, a scary game for him. He made some questionable decisions. We'll talk about that as well. And how about the Packers standing tall? So much to get to, but let's talk to those characters I just told you about, because we're starting out with a familiar face. We've got our guy Pete Prisco. You love him, you hate him, it doesn't matter. You have to respect him. He's got 37 years of NFL knowledge in the business in that, 5'8", 5'9" frame you got over there,
I wish
Pete
it was
Prisco?
5'8" or 5'9". I shrunk as I got older.
We've also got our quarterback filling in for us today, Danny Kanell, ACC Player of the Year. I won't mention the year because you've asked me not to in the past. But we've got our quarterback.
Yes, 1995.
Okay, you said
ago.
it. 1995. I was 1 year old when you won that award.
Wow.
Here.
Just
Rub his face in it, why don't you?
And of course, we need a character who's going to keep us all even keel here. We're going to the front office, a guy who's going to shoot us straight. Ran Carthon, of course, one of the accomplishments you told me when we were leading into this was becoming an NFL GM. You are now our NFL GM as we sit here and get Game Day Recap started. We're going to get the conversation started, fellas, with the game we just saw wrap up on CBS, the Lions and the Packers. And guys, man, the Packers stood strong in this one. Pete, I'll come to you first to talk about it because you've been high on this team for 2 years it has felt like, and here they are. They set the tone. What'd you think?
I think it's been like 7 or 8 that I've picked them to go to the Super Bowl. This team is really good. Before they made the trade for Micah Parsons, I thought they would be a Super Bowl team, in large part because young players played last year and got experience. And when guys get experience from year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3, and they've played a lot of football, that usually tells you the team is moving in the right direction. And Jordan Love was hurt all last year, was healthy again. But the biggest difference and the biggest change we saw today was the defense. Not just Micah Parsons, across the board. Lucas Van Ness made a ton of plays today. Rashad Gary made a ton of plays today. This team is much better defensively than they've been in recent years, and I think that's the biggest difference.
They looked like a Super Bowl contender, for sure. And I think these two teams are clearly going to be at the top of the class in the division. And I think the next time they go to Detroit could be another factor in who ends up winning this one. But you mentioned, I thought Jordan Love looked absolutely sensational today, spreading the football around, 10 different targets, 10 different receivers caught passes today from him. He looked like he was seeing the field really well, throwing with anticipation, had really good protection up front. I think that's the key. This feels like it could be a breakout season for the young Green Bay quarterback.
I mean, if you think about historically the Green Bay Packers, you think offense, right? Going back to the Brett Favre's days, they lived and died with the offense. Now I think it's flipped a little bit. I think they become a more balanced unit. And like Pete was saying, prior to Micah Parsons coming here, it was given this unit under defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley another opportunity to play in this scheme. And having experience with this scheme allows you to just play free. And that's why you see those guys flying around the ball. And like you said, you can mention the Lucas Van Ness, the Rashawn Garys. Micah Parsons even made some impact plays. So you're going to see this continue to grow as these guys get more familiar with playing with each other, and then Micah Parsons is allowed to play more snaps.
Let's just say this. I felt really good about my Super Bowl pick. I feel 10 times better about it today.
Of course, you like the Packers and the Bills. The Bills playing right now. We'll keep you updated as that score rolls along. But, Pete, something you talked about before we move on to our next game is on the other side of this matchup with the Lions. And I think all of us, we had some concerns, the new coordinators, right? A couple of guys coming back. But you pointed out during the game that their big three had maybe 50 yards combined between the three of them, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and some of those other characters. How disappointing were the Lions in this matchup?
Well, they had that yardage before that last garbage time touchdown they scored late. That drive, they got some yards on that. But it's very concerning. And anytime you make a change at offensive coordinator, there's going to be issues. And it's going to be, when you lose a guy like Ben Johnson, you're going to have some change. And when you have change, and remember, that was the whole thing. Ben Johnson's creative. What does he do? Where's his gimmicky tricks and everything? Well, they didn't run a lot of that stuff today. So I think there's going to be a transition period. I know John Morton has worked with Dan Campbell in the past. It didn't look like the same offense today. Having said that, you're on the road in the opener against a good defense, and sometimes you get caught up in that situation and just can't get it going.
I also think when I think of Ben Johnson, I think of a team that runs the football really well. And then you can base a lot of those shot plays off of play action and sneaking guys out when you get the team to suck up. When you can only rush for 46 yards as a team, and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs did not get going, either one of them, that's why you saw Jared Goff. We were looking at his numbers before the show. It's a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of checkdowns. In order to get teams to play up and bring more safeties down, you've got to run the football. And that was probably something that I think Detroit and Dan Campbell's going to go back and say, we've got to get better. And I do think the change on the offensive line. You were all over this. Frank Ragnow retires, rookie Tate Ratledge at guard. I thought that was a little bit exposed somewhat today. But I still feel pretty good about the Lions. It was in Lambeau. They went against the juggernaut. But they clearly have some work to do along the offensive line so they can get that run game going.
Yeah, and I'm not as worried about this team. I just think this was the first game with a new coordinator, and he's going to tweak the scheme a little bit, right, to add his own flavor to it. And I think that's what we saw this first time around. But you mentioned all the weapons. Jameson Williams, the two-headed monster in the backfield, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. And Green Bay had enough guys on defense to shut all those guys down. I don't think very many teams in the league are built like the Green Bay Packers are on defense to be able to handle that many weapons.
It's going to be fun to see how the NFC North shakes out. If that's our first taste of what that division is going to look out, it'll be fun to see. Let's go over to the West, where we had the 49ers and the Seahawks squaring off. New quarterback Sam Darnold was like this close to setting the tone for the Seahawks, but instead that fumble at the end of the game ran. What do you make of Sam Darnold almost getting the Seahawks that win today?
Well, see, it's a big difference coming from where he came from in Minnesota, where you had Justin Jefferson, you had a Jordan Addison, you had all these guys to throw to. And not that he does not have weapons in Seattle, but he doesn't have that vertical presence in this offense. And so they're still learning. They're still learning. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, they're learning how to play with each other because they're similar style guys. And so for me, seeing Sam Darnold, this is just going to be a work in progress. And with Clint Kubiak now being the offensive coordinator, he has experience in this scheme. It's just these guys working together and him getting to know his weapons in Seattle a little bit better.
I think there's going to be a similar theme in this game as well. I think as Sam Darnold is somebody who likes to work off the play action pass too, and to take the pressure off of him, you can be able to run the football, and they just weren't able to give him a consistent enough run game. I thought that both the Seahawks and the Vikings downgraded this year at quarterback, and we saw Geno Smith look really good today for the Raiders over in New England, and we'll still yet to be seen what the Minnesota Vikings do. But I do think this could take some time for Sam Darnold to get more comfortable in that system.
Yeah, and like Rand said, they don't really have anybody that stretches a defense, and so you can play him in a phone booth, and that's always a problem when you're a quarterback who has driven the ball down the field off of play action and likes to take those shots. If you don't have those guys available, it's hard to take those shots. So it's going to be a transition period. What did he throw for 150 yards today?
150 yards,
it's got to be
16 of 23.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an awful performance, but it's got to be 220 at least, you know. So there's our concerns. Let's be real about Sam Darnold. You are what you are, they say in this league, and for a long time he was bad. And then last year, Kevin O'Connell took him in and kind of rejuvenated his career. But do you go back to being Sam Darnold again, or are you somewhere in between? We don't know, and there's still questions about him out there.
Well, especially when you look at the end of last season, that was kind of the conversation, right? Was, Sam Darnold, he rebranded himself, and then in the postseason, he went back to that same ways there. So something to pay attention to. On the other side of this one, we did see George Kittle get the touchdown, but we also saw him pick up a hamstring injury. Danny, when you think about all of the other injuries that San Francisco is dealing with going into the season and the uncertainty there, where's your concern meter for San Francisco?
It's up there because it's going to put a lot more pressure on Brock Purdy to carry a lot of the workload. And he did come up big when he had to at the end of the game, but this is a,
sort of.
Yeah, well, I mean, sort of. I mean,
and he threw a floater into the end zone that should have been
amazing. It is, but it is amazing how it works. When sometimes you give him a chance, you can get that done. But I do think this is a team that has been snake bitten with the injury bug, and to see a player like Kittle go down, I think it's obviously a big cause for concern as a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. They've got to be healthy, and they've got to surround Brock Purdy with good talent.
All right, we'll keep our eye. We're going to talk about some injuries later in the show, but definitely something to keep in mind for the 49ers going forward. I want to keep the conversation with another quarterback that kind of all had us scratching our heads. Bo Nix. I mean, my goodness, we spent so much time talking about Jaden Daniels and the sophomore slump and what to expect. And all four of us, I should say, were sitting in that room going, what are you doing? I mean, Pete, How concerned are you with Bo Nix and what he performed today?
Well, it's still only one. Again, it's one game.
I know.
You come out a little slow, a little sluggish, but he turned the ball over. And that's the thing about him. And sometimes when you get a whole season, and you know this, you get a whole season of tape on a guy, you can figure it out. You know those boots that he was working so well last year? A couple times they grabbed them as he booted out and they were hitting them because they were ready for him. They know what they're going to do. So it's nice that Sean Payton can scheme up stuff for him, but eventually it works. The field, you know, as a quarterback, it works like this. You got to play in here, and can he play in there consistently? That's still the question about him. You said it when we were in the green room. Is there tape on him, and is there a book on him now?
And I think the book is you take away his legs, because I remember last year it was like, I didn't know Bo Nix was that athletic. He can run a little bit. I thought that was a huge aspect of that offense. And then he does work the underneath routes. Push him, make him push the field vertically. It's not a strong suit. I know he's taken advantage of it, and he proved a lot of critics wrong, but if you start taking away those underneath routes, he is not the most accurate person throwing the ball down the field. So I thought it was a bit, I'm not like the alarm bells aren't sounding yet for Bo Nix,
no.
But I do think this, if you had a candidate for sophomore slumps, Bo Nix was somebody I would have had in there, in that group of let's keep an eye and see what happens when they start to take away what he does best.
Yeah, and you gave Titans defensive coordinator Darnold Wilson a full offseason to scheme, and this is what Darnold does. He finds those little holes in your game that he can exploit, and I think we saw that early. Now, the one thing I noticed, and I'm not going to venture off in the quarterback world, Danny, but to me on those errant throws, it was like Bo's feet weren't always set. His feet were staggered, or if one foot was off the ground, his platform was just very inconsistent, and to me that led to a lot of errant throws that should have been gimmies. Right, the ones that you know as a quarterback, when you have a layup, you got to make the layup. And he missed on those throws, and the Titans defense, made him pay in the short-term part of it. But to finish a game with giving up 4 turnovers, and you still win the game, you got to count your blessings and take them as you can get them, because wins are very hard to come by in this league.
Here's the other part. You mentioned, and he was throwing across his body as he's fading away across the field. You can't do that in this league. They'll eat that alive. And he got away with a lot of that last year. And I think he's got to be sound as a quarterback in the pocket. Throw it away. You can throw it away sometimes. You can't play hero ball all the time. Sometimes you just got to throw it away.
There were quite a few mistakes in that one. Real quick, we've got to hit a break here, but thumbs up or thumbs down for Cam Ward NFL debut today?
How about in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, he was
So we'll
sacked
give him
7 times, so I give him a middle for just being able to be a playmaker.
Can we do this?
We can do this.
Yeah, halfway.
Right there.
And I do think he looked fine. Like it wasn't like the moment was too big for him. He'll be fine. You can see why they're going with him because of what he can do with his legs behind that
120
offensive
yards,
line.
though, or whatever it was he threw for. It's got to be better than that.
Listen, Titans fans should be encouraged. He made some big-time throws, and he made throws where you saw why he was the #1 pick. He has the little things to clean up. That one drive where they got the ball after the muff, and then he gave up 2 big sacks, I think, that were 30 yards and lost, that took away points off the board. It could have been a difference in swinging the game. Those are all things he'll learn as he grows and as a starting quarterback in the National Football League.
All right, so we're going right in the middle with Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's
all right,
right here.
Right here. Let's take our quick break here on Game Day Recap. Before we do, though, I want to get you updated on Sunday Night Football. It was the Buffalo Bills striking first. Dalton Kincaid scoring the first touchdown for Buffalo. The Ravens did just respond with a field goal. So first quarter ticking away. It is 7-3. We will keep you updated as this game rolls along. But we've got to hit a break here on Game Day Recap. When we come back, everybody was wondering how Aaron Rodgers would do against his former team. Well, he made some history along the way. Of course he did. We'll talk about it when you come back to Game Day Recap.